So thrilled to see everybody here today. We've had a robust response to this program this afternoon, and that really is a wonderful encouragement to us, because we know that you all are eager to dig into the topic of the 250th and education. So welcome, and that is indeed what we'll be talking about this afternoon. So I see so many familiar faces here, but just for anyone who hasn't really been introduced yet to RevolutionNJ, let me just pause a moment and say, first of all, I'm Sarah Curitan. I'm Executive Director of the New Jersey Historical Commission, and joining us as our webmaster today is Mark Lawrence, who is also from the New Jersey Historical Commission. So we are delighted to be your hosts for this afternoon. And again, just for those of you who have not really heard too much about RevolutionNJ, that is our initiative here in New Jersey for commemorating the 250th anniversary of the American Revolution, which comes up officially kicking off in 2026. So what is RevolutionNJ? It is an initiative that was created through legislation that came through our state legislature, signed by Governor Murphy. And it charged the Historical Commission with getting ready for this big anniversary and for choosing a nonprofit partner to help us in that work. And our nonprofit partner is Crossroads of the American Revolution. So here's our mission statement. We are pledged to advance the role that history plays in the public discourse, community engagement, education, tourism, and scholarship in New Jersey. Through a series of initiatives that explore the history of the American Revolution, its context, and its legacy, RevolutionNJ will galvanize diverse audiences statewide into embracing the enduring value and relevance of history. So that's our big high-level mission with RevolutionNJ. We have 6 goals, and by the way, you will find all of this information about us on our website. But today we're really going to hone in on goal number 4 of our 6 for RevolutionNJ, and that is to elevate the value placed on history education in our K-12 schools and universities. And we're going to share with you some of our preliminary plans for History Happened Here, kind of our really exciting program that we are launching for this anniversary. And by the way, before we get into that, I just also want to invite you to get involved and respond to a couple of other initiatives we have going on related to our preparations for the 250th. First of all, we have a survey out there regarding Indigenous history education. We would love it if you would respond to that. And I think, Mark, you're going to put the link in the chat. Am I right about that?
Should be there already.
Awesome. So please take a few moments and help us out by responding to our Indigenous history survey. We have a second survey out there where we are gathering information about what you do in each of your historic sites and history museums, so that we can get updated information that we can share with others who are looking for history programs around the site. So we're also going to have the link to that survey in the chat as well. But let's get back to our K-12 education focus for this afternoon. And it's my pleasure to introduce Bob Fenster, who's going to lead you through our work to date on History Happened Here. Bob is our education specialist for RevolutionNJ. And Bob, I'll let you take it away. And you are muted.
I can't believe I just did that. How many times have I done? Oh my gosh. Thank you, Sarah, very much. I'm so glad that everybody is here. I'm coming to you from the hallowed halls of Hillsborough High School. I like H's. And I'm going to share my slideshow with you in just a moment. There we go. I was Hillsborough. This school has new lighting, by the way, which is timed, and because I'm not moving around, probably sometime in the middle of my presentation, the lights are going to go off. I'll do my best to flail about and keep your attention and actually address the lights. Quick biographical thing about myself here. I've been in Hillsborough for 30 years. I'm also a podcaster and a blogger in case you have any interest in either of those types of media. But my job today is as educational program specialist. And I am doing my best to take the ideas that we're going to be hearing about from the Education Working Group and serving as a connector, a liaison between you, all of you, whether you are from public history sites, and that's the main focus today, or educators, whether you're informal educators or formal educators, and then ultimately students, local governments, and so forth, to try to make this program work as well as possible. This is the kind of the agenda for my presentation. I'm going to walk you through how this program came about very briefly. And then the core of what we're going to focus on comes from a document that we'll be sharing in a few minutes called the Roadmap for Public History Sites and connecting to this program, History Happened Here. Sarah is going to talk a little bit about grants as well. I think I actually changed the order, so sorry about that. If I ever do this presentation again, I'll fix it. I'm going to talk about the New Jersey educational standards as they connect to what we're doing with this program, and an opportunity for history sites to connect to interested students by creating short videos and show you an exemplar of what we're looking for. And then obviously finally end with some questions that you might have. This slideshow, by the way, will be shared with you at the end of the presentation, so you can, and all links are embedded inside of it. Excuse me. So you'll be able to, you don't need to copy and paste everything that Mark is going to be putting into the chat as we go. So the RevolutionNJ Education Working Group came up with this idea, among other things. And the idea is ultimately very similar. Those of you who are familiar with History Day, the outlines of it are quite similar. One big distinction, or there are two big distinctions. One is it's not going to be a competition. There's no awards. We want everybody, as many students as possible, to participate and make connections ultimately to their communities and to the organizations within their communities. We're trying to take the ideals of the American Revolution and have students connect those to their local history, hence the name of the program. Initially, I sent many of you emails about a program called Our Town. That's the origin of this particular program. We ultimately got some feedback that name wouldn't connect with kids who are not living in towns. And so we figured we'd make it more general, that history happened here. And of course it did. One thing that we are requiring that History Day does not require is that students, as part of their research, must go to a public history site and do some research there. They may end up doing most of their research online. As a teacher, I know that's what 99% of the kids would do, but perhaps through going to those public history sites, they'll find materials that they wouldn't find otherwise, or they'll learn that it's not that scary, or it's fascinating, and they'll want to keep working there. Maybe they'll want to intern and do all sorts of things that kids could do to grow and experience. Ultimately, though, at the core of this for me is that we have created a prompt, which you'll see in a moment, which is incredibly open-ended. We want students to be driven by their own choice. In the classroom, I've made some significant changes. We're giving students the opportunity to investigate subjects of their own choosing that they connect to. It helps, certainly students find very different topics that they would if something was being dictated to them. So I just want to stick a pin in this idea, because later on I'm going to talk about how those of you who are from public history sites, we are going to want you to come up with a list of possible topics that kids could do, but we also don't want you to sort of tell them this is what we have and this is what you'll research. We want them to kind of figure that out on their own ultimately.
Almost 60 people on.
Now, the ultimate goals of the program are on the slide. I'm going to do my best to not do the speaker faux pas and read anything to you that's actually on my slides, but just take a moment and look at what we're looking to do. here's the prompt. Fairly lengthy. Again, I'll give you a minute to read through the prompt that students will have for the projects that they create. Now, if you take a moment and reflect on some of the language in this prompt, you might note that although, we're talking about the 250th anniversary of our country's founding, this is not intended to be purely celebrational, hooray America. There are all sorts of ways to interpret this prompt. We want students, again, to be able to choose for themselves how to look at history and what subject matter, how to frame the subject matter that they're looking at. We want to give them the sort of the academic freedom to be historians and put their own, use their own lens to actually observe the events, the individuals, the places in their communities that all sorts of different types of history occurred or happened, should just use that word, where that history happened in their local communities. So here is what they're actually doing. The prompt is written, but then there's additional instructions. So they're going to choose the research on literally any topic from the history of the country, as long as it relates to their local communities. And I would argue, or I would tell you that I believe, it's my intention anyway, that they're not actually restricted to post 1776. Obviously, there were lots of events that occurred and individuals that played a role who informed the ideals that were created and espoused in the Declaration of Independence. So if students wanted to go outside that time period, fine. At the end of the day, if a student picks a topic that barely touches upon the revolutionary ideals, I don't care. They're engaging in history and historical research and significant upper level thinking skills, synthesis and analysis, and that's what we want. If they can make those connections to local history, even better. I will make a confession to you. Despite 30 years in the classroom, I largely ignored New Jersey history as a teacher. I just personally didn't connect to it. I don't know why. I didn't feel like my students had many connections, but in the last several years, 5 or 6 years, I've been able to do research on my own and really reconnect to what I was doing in college, and bring in examples from Somerset County. I teach in that county, that I think that students suddenly hear the names of towns, and there it is. It happened already. Be with you in 1 second. Okay. Sorry about that. So students will connect to local history, I believe, and it will ultimately excite them. They may work in there can be group projects. We'll have specific guidelines on that. And then finally, the types of projects, it's utterly open-ended. As I was saying with regard to the subject matter, if they want to do something creative that's not on this list that I haven't thought of, fine, let them do that. As long as they're following the appropriate way to do research and sourcing and all the things that we expect from our students doing historical research, let them commemorate the history of this country however they see fit. So to give you an idea of where we're at, I'm sure you all know that a program like this can't just happen with a month or two of preparation, both on our end here at RevolutionNJ and at the sites that you work at, the teachers who are in the classrooms. It's just not going to happen next year or in this school year, next school year. So we have a reasonable amount of lead time to make some adjustments. And that's where the main focus is going to shift in a moment, talking about what public history sites can do to be ready, to be part of this, not just part of this project, but to be a huge part of it, a pivotal or a critical role that you play. So we're working right now on creating rubrics for the for basically what the expectations are, even though it's not a competition. Compiling research resources, developing a website that's going to be hopefully first class and something that both teachers and both educators, formal and informal educators and students would be able to use. And finally, providing teachers with some materials that are ready to use, that they'll be able to just immediately drop down and then hopefully either bring their classes to the sites or do Zoom calls with the public history sites and get as many students as possible involved. Your role will also be simultaneous. That's coming up in the next few slides. The program is going to be piloted in the fall of 2024. We're going to recruit about a dozen teachers from various parts of the state, roll out the program, give them the materials that we've prepared, see what works and what doesn't work, make the adjustments. And then the big program launch is going to be in the fall of 2025 with hopefully participation from thousands of students trying to learn more about local history and their own, the history of their own communities. And we want this to be a community activity. We're going to be encouraging boards of education and local townships and towns to not only have kids present at their meetings, but to put on displays in public buildings as part of the celebration. I'm old enough to remember the bicentennial. It was relatively early in my childhood, but I remember it really, really well. It was amazing, things that I could do with my family. It was just, incredibly fun and wholesome, and I learned a lot. And I wish I could say I learned my love of history from 1976. That's not quite true, but it's definitely something that those of us who are old enough to remember probably think back on it fondly. But we can do it even better this time. And then, although it's not a competition, there will be an opportunity for some of the best ones ultimately to be picked out and then ultimately celebrated in a statewide event in May 2026, whether it's in the Capitol or at Rutgers. We're still going to work out those details, but there's going to be hopefully hundreds of students whose impressive work on local history will be able to put a spotlight on it. Now, this is where you come in. Without the public history sites, and not only just existing, but actually being full partners here, I don't think this project has much of a chance. So we're going to lay out on this next slide and the subsequent slides what it is that we're hoping that will happen as you over the next couple of years can really gear up and do the most that you can. Mark is going to be sharing the actual link to this document, the rest of it. This is the roadmap that we put together. It does include the prompt, by the way. So, if you wanted to, you can use that particular document to see that. And everything I'm going to talk about is going to be addressed. Everything I'm talking about is addressed in the handout. So here we have kind of a quick bullet point overview of what it is that we want you to do. First, familiarize yourself with the prompt. When the kids come to you, you know what the prompt is. You have an idea of what the conception of the American ideals are. And that way, if a student brings up something, you can certainly ask them, how do you think that fits? Or to steer them in a direction that will be helpful to them so that they actually, they are keyed into that. I'm going to talk more about the learning standards in an upcoming slide, but having some general familiarity with the New Jersey learning standards is important, not so much for the students, but for the educators the teachers who are going to be hopefully partnering as well with you. We're hoping that teachers reach out directly to public history sites and set things up, whether it's actual visits or digitally, or just generally talking about, well, what do you have and how can my students benefit from that? And they're going to be basing, well, I'll talk more about, I said I'm going to talk more about standards in a minute. Think about what you have. I mean, I'm sure this one's really easy for you, but in the framework of what the prompt is and what the standards are, what do you have that would make sense to work with this project? And, you know, pulling some materials, for example, having things ready, maybe even having a handout or two of ideas that students could explore, which would be beneficial to to leading to them doing projects that make sense, where they'll be able to find materials. We've all had, I'm sure you've, at times had students who want to do research on a topic and the topic is just a dead end because there are no materials or there are very few materials for it. But perhaps they can be steered towards ones where they would have more fertile ground for their research. This one might be difficult for some organizations, but having hours that are accessible to students. So that's generally speaking after 3 p.m. on weekdays and on weekends. If your facility is open one day a week and it's during the weekday 9 to noon, that's just not going to work. Students aren't going to be able to get any benefit from that. And we want them to visit your site and make those types of connections. Having staff on hand that aren't just babysitters for the facility, people who actually understand what the prompt is, being clued into it, or knowing who to ask to help students as they need help. We're also going to be dealing in just a moment. Sarah's going to take over and talk a little bit about grants that are available to you, specifically focusing on digitalization of materials. I know that some facilities have very little of that, materials that students would be able to access on a computer. The reality is our students aren't going to come 12 days in a row doing research at your location. They're going to want to get a head start perhaps by visiting in person, but then they're going to want to switch to their computer. And if you have resources that are digitized, it's going to make a huge difference. Lastly, you get bonus points if you do make yourself available to students and educators by doing presentations, talking about what you have available, or helping guide them, whether that's through Zoom or in person, either you going to the school or students from the school, which is less likely, coming to your facility. Field trips in the 2020s are extraordinarily difficult. Paying for buses is just something that doesn't happen anymore, unfortunately, in most public schools at least. And lastly, and I'll come back to this topic as well, we're encouraging every single site to make a video, a short 4 to 5 minute video, which highlights what you've got and how it can connect, why students would want to visit your site to learn about what you have that could connect to the topics within History Happened Here. And I'm going to show you later in a little bit anyway, an exemplar of that made by Dana Howell from Monmouth County Historical Association. There are, by the way, lastly, and I don't know, I don't have the right screen up, so I can't see if you shared it yet, but there's also a link to that'll be shared for research guidelines. This is a handout that Dana and Tom Ankner worked on to help with students that I'm hoping teachers hand this out, but you could have it on at your site to help direct students about footnoting and paraphrasing and plagiarism and so forth that is badly needed. More needs to be done in the classroom, but it would be helpful if you help on your end as well. So I'm almost done with this monologue before I switch over to Sarah, but I'll touch briefly on the learning standards. For those of you who are not aware, the teachers are supposed to use their learning standards. They align what they do in the classroom to the learning standards that have been provided by the state. There are an awful lot of them. Editorial comment, way too many, but there are a lot of these learning standards, and I have winnowed it down to the ones that I think are the most likely to be employed by teachers and the ones that would be relevant to the type of student research that's going to be done. That's another handout that Mark is sharing, and you can basically get an idea. Again, you don't need to look up the standards. This handout does it for you, winnowing it down to at least a manageable, I think it's 4 or 5 pages. I think it's 4 pages now of key standards that educators will be using. And if they do a full class, like not every teacher is going to have this be a full class project. I'm going to do this, but I'm going to do it outside of class. I'm going to introduce the topic to my students and say, if you want to do this, please go ahead. Unfortunately, I've got to cover I've got to cover all these other standards. Other teachers will choose a set of those standards and say, I want you to pick a topic within this set of standards. And that'll be important, perhaps for you to find out when you make connections to teachers about what are you focusing on if you're doing this as a class project, as opposed to, hey kids, the world's your oyster, pick whatever you want. Last slide before Sarah, I believe. And what I want to focus on is that when I said, review your holdings, or whatever phrase I used, think about what you could suggest. And maybe there will be a handout that you'll have, on the greetings desk at your reception desk at your facility. If you're working on History Happened Here, here's a bunch of possible topics that you could pick. I would strongly urge you to, unless you're specifically a site that is dedicated to a really famous person, I would encourage you to think outside the box or not go with the names that everybody knows. We don't need 500 different research projects on the same famous person from New Jersey again and again and again. We want to kind of celebrate more people and events. And I also want to, again, I don't like to use the word celebrate because I want it to be more of a commemoration than a celebration. It can be celebratory, of course, but we want to have all different types of perspectives here. So I was going to do a thing where I was going to ask for audience participation here, but I want to keep moving this along. Keep this to 45 minutes. I think we'll be under that, just to let you know. But I want you to think right now. I'll give you the smallest of assignments and think off the top of if you are at a public history site, museum, library, etc. What are 3 topics that you have some really cool primary sources on that students or access to them, or secondary for that matter, that would be local history, something that a student could really sink their teeth into? That's the sort of thing that we want on this handout that you might be making. And it doesn't have to be a person, it can be events, it could be movements, it could even be a place that is the focus of the project. Okay, so Mark's gonna share this link, and actually I'm gonna stop sharing because he's gonna take over sharing while Sarah gives us a little bit of discussion here about what is happening or what you can do to get more money.
Great. Thanks so much, Bob. So a lot of you I know have participated in our grant programs before. So forgive me if some of this is a review, but for those of you who haven't, I want to just take a few minutes to highlight some of the resources we have available to help you get ready to participate in this program. And I want to just emphasize that one of the great goals of this program is to really be a tool for all of you at public history sites to use to develop stronger relationships with your local schools and also with students in your communities. We're hoping that this will be a great tool for you to do that. And by the way, I just want to say, as this program develops and rolls out, we will, of course, be publicizing it. We'll be reaching out to schools. We are working with the Department of Education on this one. But also, this is an opportunity for you all at public history sites to go to your local school districts, go to your local schools, and make sure they're aware of this. Encourage them to participate. You can highlight for them the kind of resources that you have that their students and teachers can use for this program. So we hope that it's an opportunity in many different ways, an opportunity for students, an opportunity for educators, an opportunity for our public history sites. So if you're thinking, gosh, this sounds great, but our best collections aren't digitized, so we can't make them accessible online yet. Well, I want to offer you some strategies for finding the resources to actually address that problem. So our project grant program at the Historical Commission does fund digitization. It also funds conservation of archival and other kinds of collections. So now is a great time to be thinking about it. As you saw from Bob's timeline, you've got some time built in here. So there is time for you to actually seek a grant from the Historical Commission and get funding to do some of this work and be ready in time to participate in History Happened Here. Now, one of the caveats I want to give you is that, oh, and look, is this, it looks like no, I'm not sure about that intent to apply, but never mind. This is a spot on our website and our grants page. And what I want you to do, yeah, Mark, those are last year's deadlines, but never fear, the new deadlines have been approved, and they were just approved a week or so ago. And very shortly on this website, you'll get those new deadlines. But the project grant round will be opening up this late winter, spring. So you do have an opportunity to apply for funding if you need it to work with your collections to get them more accessible. Now, one caveat that I want to make sure I highlight for you is that if you are applying for funding to support work with your archival collection, and I see there I am, I was frozen there for a moment, I'm back. One requirement we do have is that before you seek funding from us to work on your archival collection, we do ask that you have one of our absolutely free CAPES surveys, the Caucus Archival Preservation Evaluation Service surveys. That same grant page link that Mark shared with you has the information connecting you to the CAPES program. So if you do not have a current survey of your archival collection, which identifies some of the current needs and gives you some priorities on what to address in what order, now is a great time to ask us for a CAPES grant so that you can get that survey done. They're free. They're done on a first come, first served basis. And it will give you a great roadmap for the critical items that you need to be thinking about in terms of caring for your collection. If you already have a CAPES survey, and I'm guessing a lot of the organizations that are represented here already have CAPES surveys, then you're in good shape to be able to apply for funding to do some digitization or conservation of collections. In that category too, maybe you need to rehouse your archival collection so that it's stable and easier to be accessed in person by students. Whatever it might be, that funding program is a great resource for you. Now, if you are one of our small organizations and you don't meet the criteria to apply directly to the Historical Commission, never fear. We have a history re-grant program called CHIP, or the County History Partnership Program. We have a branch in every single one of the 21 counties in New Jersey. So if you don't meet our criteria to apply directly to us, you're going to be eligible to apply at the county level. And those deadlines usually come up in the late summer, early fall. So you've got plenty of time to get ready to apply for that funding if you need it in the late summer, early fall. And I believe we also have on the website a list of the contacts for all 21 counties for our CHIP grant programs. But if you're having any difficulty finding that contact in your county, please just contact us and we'll be happy to give you the contacts so you know where to go in your particular county for those county re-grants. So that's just a quick introduction. And Bob, I'll turn it back to you and then be happy to answer questions too when we get there,
Right.
if folks have them.
So we have am I muted or am I on? I now lost my screen.
You are on.
Okay, sorry. Zoom is acting weird for me today. Oops, sorry, that went backwards. All right, Eileen had a question in the chat, and I'll answer more questions in the Q&A if there are any. We designed it from 5 to 12 because we didn't think that the students would actually, the K to 4 would be able to do the type of research that we're looking to do. But there's a component in History Happened Here, which the idea would be high school students, after they create their projects, would present to the local elementary schools. This would obviously be something that has to be coordinated by boards of education. We can't force anybody to do this, but the high school students would visit the elementary schools, and then the elementary students would do artwork based on one of the stories that they heard about. Now, just again, I'll answer more questions in literally 2 more slides. One of the components we said, and I saw Drake that you're ahead of the curve. That's excellent. We're going to actually be creating some videos on our end. History Happened Here is, but there's a limited number that we can do. So we're hoping that every site will create one. I have a handout that Mark is probably already sent in the chat for what the expectations are, the guidelines for such a video. And I'm going to show you in a moment an exemplar. I don't know. Let me actually stop my share because I think I didn't click on sound. Let me do this again. Nope, it's on. Okay. All right, so this is Dana's video that she created and the people at the Monmouth County Historical Association created. It's just under 5 minutes. Check it out.
Hi, I'm Dana. I'm part of the team here in the Research Library at MCHA, and we're here to help you find information for your History Happened Here project. So I'm going to give you an overview of the resources that we have available here at our headquarters at 70 Court Street in Freehold, just to give you an idea of what's available to you when you come, and maybe that'll spark some ideas or inspiration, and also let you know what to expect when you come for a visit. I know some of you might be a little nervous to do this because you've never done this before, but you should know that most people who come here have never been here before either. And that's okay, because that's exactly what we're here for. We love to do research, we love to help. So all you really need to do is come in with the idea for your project and your revolutionary ideals, and we'll get you started.
The first thing you need to know is that the Research Library is open by appointment only, so please be sure to email library@monmouthhistory.org before coming to visit. In addition to family histories, wills, and cemetery records, you will find reference books on every Monmouth County town, topic, and event, including many books on New Jersey as well. MCHA is home to thousands of archival collections full of original documents stored in boxes like these. The staff will help you find what you need. Copies or scans will be provided for documents that are not able to be handled safely. Our collection has documents spanning 4 centuries dating all the way back to the 1600s. They tell the stories of the birth of the American Revolution, eyewitness accounts of major Civil War battles such as Gettysburg, and perspectives on world events such as the 1918 Spanish flu pandemic. We have hundreds of maps dating back to colonial times. This is a detail of one large map that's beautifully hand-drawn and depicts the houses and landmarks that were there in Freehold in 1895. If you look carefully, you'll note the absence of the MCHA building across from the tall battle monument. The building will not be there for another 36 years, until 1931. We have countless photographs that depict the world as it was, from transportation to fashion, to social and civil rights issues. The images in our archives tell endless stories. Postcards are also a great source for images. They're like little windows into the past. When you visit the library, you'll have access to our digital subscriptions, such as newspapers.com, where you can search New Jersey newspapers dating back to the 1700s, and ancestry.com, where you can find family trees, documents, and background information on many people from the past. You'll also find lots of great information under the Learn tab on our website. Here you'll find classroom resources for upper elementary grades through high school, where you can explore the local side of history with original documents and artifacts from our collection. Our blog page includes topics from the Civil War to civil rights and many interesting local stories in between. Learn about topics like the American Revolution, indentured servitude, and the Gilded Age on our lecture series. Another great digital resource on our website is our e-museum. Here you can research over 1,000 collection items that tell the stories of Monmouth County history. Finally, our online library catalog can be found under the Research tab and is an important tool to help you search for materials available to you at the library. When you email for your appointment, be sure to tell us what your topic is so we can have materials ready for you to help maximize your time spent in the library. Here's a great example.
I want to focus on why it was so important that George Washington didn't give up at the Battle of Monmouth.
So I hope this has been helpful, and we look forward to seeing you soon.
I did it again. So that was Dana from the Monmouth County Historical Association, and I think a really fantastic video that really would do a great job to make students feel comfortable about making that visit. Remember, after COVID, I mean, kids are going to be shy regardless. I know that I recently went to a historic site that was where nobody was there except for a couple people on staff, and I personally felt a little nervous about just the interaction. And with COVID, kids are, even in the Zoom era, their cameras were off, or if we forced them to have them on, you'd see their ceiling fans, and they just didn't want to make eye contact with anybody. So we want to make them comfortable. And the idea is these videos are going to be posted by county on our website, and I hope to have hundreds of videos, not just 5 or 6. So again, there are the guidelines, and if you have any questions or need some suggestions, feel free to email me, which is the one thing that I didn't provide was my email address. I'll have to do that right at the end. But are there any questions before we wrap up here? Raise your hand if you have one.
Bob, do you want to take down the slide so you can see people's hands?
I have it open, but it's
Good.
fine.
Perfect.
Fair enough, though. I don't need to share anymore. I think when they raise their hands, they pop to the front, but
Okay, good.
I'm not sure.
So please raise your digital hand.
Or unmute and start talking. That would be fine.
Okay.
Everybody's satisfied, or asleep. One of the two.
I have a question.
Please.
I noticed that you did put in the chat room the slideshow and the link, as well as your email. Is there any other option to obtain the information that you presented today? Is it like in a brochure? Is it in a written paper form where we have to go directly to the link? Not that political savvy. So if we have, go ahead, I'm sorry.
That's okay. I mean, one thing that I would like to do is, I assume it would be possible, Mark can probably confirm, that we can, at the very least, email this to all of the participants. I think that's something that we can do. If, we don't have, I suppose if you want to contact me, if you want paper copies, I could personally mail them to you. That would be no problem. But we will have all of these in the not too distant future on the website as well, and that would probably be the best thing for us to do.
Okay, so you will email. You said how soon would the email go out?
That I'm not sure about. I have to look into it. I don't even know how exactly how it works, but at the very least, if you want to email me, Mark just posted my email address. Feel free to I will send you all of the links directly. Unless we figure it out really quickly how to email everybody, and I've never done that with a group this size, so we'll do our best to figure that out. But I promise, if you signed in, so we should have everybody's name. It will go out before long.
I think Bob, it's pretty easy because I think
Okay.
we can grab everybody's email from their registration today,
Right.
right, Mark? And then we can email you the links
Sure.
that we provided today along with the PowerPoint deck. So you'll have all that.
Nancy?
Yeah, I had a question about the grants. If we already get a GOS grant, are we still eligible for a project digitization grant?
Yes, you are. You can get, Nancy, do you get it through the CHIP program? Reminds me.
Yes, correct.
Okay. You know what? I said that too quickly. I think it depends on your county. You're
Okay.
in
Union.
Yeah,
Union.
okay, good. So just check with John,
Okay.
Prescott. I think hopefully you'll be able to do both.
Okay.
If that's a problem, let us know, because then we'll work together to find another solution.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate it.
It's important to get you that support.
No, it is important,
Yeah.
but I didn't know if we were eligible for both, that's all.
You are if you're coming directly
Right.
to the commission.
Okay,
But we'll check with John Prescott up in
Okay.
Lincoln and find out.
thanks for the clarification. I'll check with them too. Thank
Anybody else?
Yeah, John Fabiano here.
Hi, John.
Hi. I'm very familiar with Monmouth County Historical Association, and I just want to point out that they have a unique collection. It's known as the Michael Adelberg Revolutionary War Collection. And many years ago, before these greater databases, Michael had put together a cross-reference database of all of the people, events, locations, and dates of occurrences during the Revolutionary War with citations. It's just an incredible document. It's in 3-ring binders in that small library that was shown on the video.
Mhm.
But I understand that Monmouth County Archives has a digital version. And I think you should get a copy of that digital version because it's an incredible resource. In fact, I had done my original research in Allentown without the knowledge of that database. And after producing my own work, I went back and literally spent hours there making sure I didn't miss anything.
Mhm.
That's just what a wonderful resource it is. So I just wanted to point that out to everyone. It's Michael Adelberg, who's a historian and educator.
Thank you, John. Sounds terrific. All right, if there are no more questions, I want to again thank everybody for coming. And I've posted my email address one more time. If you have any questions, I'm the point person on this, and I will. If I don't know the answer, I'll find out who to talk to and either get you the answer or get you the right person.
And Bob, can I ask one question of everybody before they leave, if you don't mind? Could people raise their hands? How many of you are thinking that you will be able to participate and be a resource for this program and for students? Let's see, lots of hands going up. Oh, I see a mezzo. That's great. I see a lot of hands going up, which is fantastic. And for those of you who are a little that's why we're here today. I hope you'll follow up with us and we'll try to answer those questions and get you those answers. And I'm gonna John Prescott, I think, is with us. John, are you here? I see you're muted. But John, I'll just, if you are hearing me, there he is, he unmuted. Maybe you can connect with Nancy and give her the answer to that question for your program. And then if Nancy is ineligible through the county, maybe we let us know and we can think of other solutions to make sure we get that support available. All right, thanks.
Yes, I'll be glad to talk with Nancy about that.
Perfect, John. Thank you so much. And then circle back to us if you need us to help you think stuff through.
Thank
Okay.
you.
All right.
Thanks.
Great.
Rosemary, did you have a question? Sarah, Barbara has a question in the chat about the budget eligibility for the Historical Commission grant.
Okay. To apply directly to us, the budget eligibility is the $100,000 operating budget on an annual basis. So, and again, if you don't hit that, then we do have the county programs. But we want to keep hearing from people who about what their needs are, because I hope you have seen that we're trying to be very flexible and creative. We did offer the Inclusive History Grant Program this past year that was open to everybody, irregardless of your budget level. So we want to do want to keep hearing from you if you're not finding the resources that you need for this work, okay? But that is the budget limit. Okay. And Rosemary, I see Rosemary, you got your hand up. Do you have a question or no? You're just joining the party. Okay, great.
So it always takes me forever to find out how to raise my hand, and then I can't figure out how to put it back down. And it looks like that's what's happening with Rosemary, or she can't unmute, one of the two. But all right, we're way over the 45 that we were aiming for. But again, I thank everybody for coming, and I'll stick around if there's any last questions, but for anybody. But you are all dismissed.